Hello guys, and welcome back to the Vlogyssey, episode 2, in which I attempt to give myself some structure on which to base the making of videos, which I seem to need. I haven't been doing too much gaming this week. I am still playing New Super Mario's U, and that's getting more difficult towards the end. It might be difficult, it might just be that I'm shit at it. On New Super Mario's U, if you die enough times on a level, a little Luigi pops up and it can show you a route through the level. And the crazy thing about that is, it becomes quite obvious what you need to succeed at a Mario platformer, and that is patience. Because this little Luigi just strolls through the level at a snail's pace, really leisurely, and just nails the level perfectly with grace and patience. That's something it's hard to have on the more difficult Mario levels, but I am still enjoying it. It's pretty sweet. I'm also playing Golden Sun on the Game Boy Advance. I'm playing it on my DS, but you know, it's a Game Boy Advance game. Really cool RPG. I might talk a bit more at length of that in the future, but yeah, Golden Sun, really loving that. What I have been doing a lot of this week though is watching films. Now, I'm a big fan of 80s movies. I know you shouldn't really group together a time period in terms of film or music. There's all different genres and styles going on at any given time, but there's a certain feel to a whole load of 80s films, and I don't know what it is. I just really dig them, and anybody of my generation will probably feel the same way. Just that decade is laden with classics, and I find myself getting more and more disappointed with modern films. You know, there's a few great films coming out, but by and large, a lot of the stuff that's coming out these days just doesn't grab my attention. The 80s, though, is packed with classics. My girlfriend's a little bit younger than me. She was 7 years difference or so. She doesn't quite have the same nostalgic connection to the 80s, and she sometimes takes the piss out of me for my love of 80s films. And so I've been doing sort of an experiment. And I've been going through all the 80s classics that I've missed. Oh, I shouldn't say classics. I've been going through 80s films that I haven't seen, to kind of see whether or not that decade does have some genuine je ne sais quoi, or if it's just my nostalgia. Because obviously I haven't seen these films before, so I have no nostalgia connected to them, so that should test that theory. But also just a good reason to watch a lot of cool films. So that's what I've been doing. We've got Kodi. I'm sure everybody knows what Kodi is already. It's a kind of a streaming service. Oh, it's brilliant. You add like sources for these streams, and it's all free, all awesome. I got one called Exodus, which sorts the films by categories. You can sort it by year. So I've been going through the 80s basically. So here are some of the 80s films that I'd never seen before that I finally got around to watching. Oh, sorry for the camera jigger. Right, so first is Real Genius with Val Kilmer. Now this is a high school based comedy. There were a lot of them in the 80s. That's where that genre kind of blew up. Didn't start there though. I think American Graffiti was in the 70s, wasn't it? Although that wasn't really a comedy, more of a drama, but still a lot of high school based comedies in the 80s. And this is one of them, Real Genius. Yeah, with Val Kilmer. And it's about a college specifically for geniuses, and it's got a really cool storyline. It's really well written, it's really fun, exactly the kind of thing you'd expect from an 80s high school comedy, but really well written. It's one of the good ones. But the storyline's cool as well. These kids basically get involved with designing a mega powerful laser, and they just think it's some cool science projects, and when they realise that it's actually intended for use by the government to kill people, then they have to try and destroy it basically. So there's a cool anti-military, anti-establishment almost kind of vibe to this storyline. That's pretty sweet. So yeah, I really liked it. Real Genius. I can recommend that. That was really cool. Next one was Better Off Dead with John Cusack. I really like John Cusack. High Fidelity is one of my favourite films of all time. This one I didn't quite gel with. I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's really good. It didn't really do it for me. Better Off Dead. It was alright, wasn't shit, wasn't brilliant. After Hours is a Scorsese film. It's really, really good. I really enjoyed it. It's about a guy who basically has a really shit night, and all the madness that ensues therein. What's funny about After Hours, though, is that even though it's Scorsese, even though it's this kind of serious heavyweight director, it still has that unmistakable 80s kind of feel to it. There's a certain frame of reference, you know, a certain filter almost by which most kind of American, at least, 80s films seem to be shot through. And it just feels 80s in a certain way. There's a certain authenticity to it that I feel is missing from many films that come out today. But it is a bit darker, being Scorsese, a bit more grown up, a bit darker, but really well made. I can definitely recommend After Hours if you haven't seen that already. I'm probably late to the party on all of these, of course. You're probably all well ahead of me. I watched a little bit of Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure for the pure fact that I was surprised to find out that the director is Tim Burton, famously a director who does a lot of dark, spooky films, and here he is doing Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure back in, I think it was 85 or something, I don't know, 80s. That wasn't actually shit. Weirdly, it wasn't shit. I didn't get to the end of it. I watched enough of it out of curiosity to think, right, that's what that is, I don't need to see any more of it. But, yeah, another reason why I watched that, a little bit of that, is I kind of accidentally saw a little bit of a recent Pee Wee Herman's film, 2016, I think it might be even as recent as that, and the guy looks almost exactly the same as he did like 30 years ago. Mental. That guy defies physics. The guy who plays Pee Wee Herman. Crazy. Then I watched Tough Turf. Tough Turf with James Spader and a very young looking Robert Downey Jr., who then went by the name of Robert Downey. It's alright, it's kind of generic, teen angst, high school drama / comedy film. I ain't got really a lot to say about that. I didn't get to the end of it. Tough Turf, it's okay. I never really got with James Spader, never really gelled with him. I tried to watch Girls Just Want to Have Fun with Sarah Jessica Parker. I couldn't get excited about it. I didn't think I'd have fun with it, so I stopped. But in that film, a girl gets excited about having a 25-inch TV. Oh, how times change. Then one that I really enjoyed, called Once Bitten with Jim Carrey. Obviously about vampires, another high school comedy. But yeah, that was alright. Once Bitten with Jim Carrey. Not bad, not bad. Then was a brilliant film. Then I watched, I can't believe this one's passed me by until now, Where the Buffalo Roam. Is a film about Hunter S. Thompson. Sure, everybody knows Hunter S. Thompson popularised and spearheaded the gonzo journalism kind of style. He was a complete space cadet, but his writing was brilliant and really well respected, highly original, erratic space cadet writer, basically, Hunter S. Thompson. Of course, and this was my first introduction to Hunter S. Thompson, was he wrote Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Most of his pieces started with Fear and Loathing something or other. But yeah, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, of course, Johnny Depp played him in that and did really well. In this, Where the Buffalo Roam, Bill Murray plays Hunter S. Thompson, does a really good job of it, and the film is just random fun. As you can imagine, Hunter S. Thompson's just so imaginative, and his life was so chaotic. This film is brilliant. It's definitely reminiscent of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but slightly less dark, slightly more comedic, or more obviously comedic. But yeah, that's really good. Highly recommend Where the Buffalo Roam with Bill Murray. Then I watched Saturn 3. Now this came out in 1980, so it doesn't really feel so much like an 80s film. It feels more like a 70s film, as it came out right at the turn of the decade. Saturn 3 with the legendary Kirk Douglas. He's still going strong at 100 years old. Kirk Douglas, what a legend. In this, he's 63. In 1980, 63-year-old, doing fucking jump ropes, doing all these intricate jump ropes and these athletic things that I can't do now. That guy's a machine. Anyway, Saturn 3, there's only 3 kind of main players in the whole film, and yet it's engaging all the way through. It's really well written, really well acted. So yeah, it's Kirk Douglas, Farrah Fawcett. These two they're out on some outposts near Saturn in the future, obviously sometime, and trying to, you know, just surviving in space basically on this research station or something. And then another guy gets introduced to the mix, and that is Harvey Keitel. So Harvey Keitel comes in, and I think he's some kind of government overseer. He's come to shake things up at this research facility or something. But the way it's written is really great. Harvey Keitel's just got this really cold, kind of sociopathic way of relating to other humans. He tries to woo Farrah Fawcett away from Kirk Douglas, and he does it in the most cold kind of, sociopathic kind of way. It's really well done. So I can highly recommend Saturn 3 if you haven't seen that already. Really good psychological thriller. Then I watched Dragnet. Now I think I'd seen bits of this before. I remembered little bits of it, but I'd never watched it all the way through. Dragnet with Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd. And in the 80s, Dan Aykroyd was on fire. He's really good in this. I didn't think the film was brilliant. I thought it was okay. I like Tom Hanks as well. Dan Aykroyd was class. But I didn't think he was up there with the best. Dragnet was all right. Right, then I tried to watch a film called Blind Date because it had Bruce Willis in it, but it didn't start well, and I didn't want to. I was getting film fatigue by this point. I'd watched so many bloody films. This is over the course of 2 or 3 days that I had off, just watching a whole shitload of 80s films. So I didn't stick to the end of all of them. Blind Date, I couldn't finish. Then Sid and Nancy with Gary Oldman. Obviously this is about Sid Vicious and the Sex Pistols. I thought it was okay. I don't know. I think it tried too hard to be kind of gritty and rock and roll. And I don't know, actors just can't very often do rock and roll very convincingly. Gary Oldman's brilliant, but I don't know. Maybe it's the character. Sid Vicious is just not a very nice character. The guy was a bit of a dick. He never really wanted to be in a band in the first place. He was kind of dragged into it just because he looked like a rock star, some kind of icon. Malcolm McLaren just wanted Sid Vicious in the band because he just looked cool. So Sid Vicious is not the most interesting Sex Pistol to make a film about. I'd say it's been far better to make a film about Johnny Rotten, because John Lydon had a brain and had something to say, and he was coming at punk from a political angle. And I just think he had more energy. Johnny Rotten was fucking brilliant, and he's in this film a little bit, but not enough. Keep an eye out for Captain Sensible as well, who's also in this film. That was alright. I didn't really think it was that good. So that was my 80s binge, and it's still going on. So I'm just, if you can, guys, tell me any obscure 80s films. Not the obvious ones, of course. We all know the obvious greats from the 80s. I want to know your obscure classics from the 80s that I should watch. Because going through the list on Cody takes fucking half an hour just to find something interesting. It's all the films. It's ridiculous. Get involved. Cancel your TV licence, as we have done. It feels so good. Stop giving money to the BBC. Get Cody. You have everything. And anyway, so blah 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 blah. So that was that. What else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, of course. Well, I said in the last video it's been a crazy time in the world, obviously politically, and Alex Blue Tonic said, no, talk about it then. Oh, what have you got to say about that then? Oh man, what a situation. They should never have stolen it from Bernie. This is the Democrats' own fault. They should never have stolen that nomination from Bernie, as they effectively did. He would have walked it against Trump, because you had a whole huge percentage of people who normally vote Democrat who couldn't bring themselves to vote for Hillary. She's that bad. The emails that came out revealed a lot of corruption. I'm not going to itemise them all, but basically, you got things like, I'll itemise a few. Big donations from dodgy places like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait are the same people who fund ISIS. You got the spirit cooking thing, the Pizzagate thing, which there's quite a lot too, actually. What else was there? Oh, lots of just corrupt manipulations behind the scenes. The Democrats actually made this bed to lie in. They actually fluffed and funded Trump as a candidate early on, because they thought, in a sort of Pied Piper way, he'd be easier to beat because he wasn't really a serious candidate in the start. I don't think anybody thought that Trump actually stood as a serious candidate in the first place, but he seemed to get elevated artificially, and that was in part because of help from the Clinton Foundation, who thought he'd be easy to beat. So that came to bite them in the arse. But the arrogance with thinking that enough people would like Clinton, or enough people were blind to the news that we were hearing from her, stuff we already knew, they underestimated the public. People didn't want to vote for her. So, you know, this isn't really a victory of the right, this is a defeat of the left. They defeated themselves. And here's the silver lining. Right, if you want a silver lining about the Trump presidency, here it is. The left now will have to galvanise, because the left lost its way terribly. You know, Obama got away with murder and heinous shit for 8 years because he talks all purdy. You know, because he presents as a nice, intelligent, affable, lovely guy. He comes across as a cool guy, and his personal persona allowed the Democrats for the last 8 years to get away with terrible shit. You know, the wars, there was a lot of deportations, the crackdown on whistleblowers, the expanded surveillance powers, could go on for ages, secretive courts, TPP, a whole load of shit. It didn't pass that, but let's see what happens after that anyway. Obama got away with murder. Trump, now we have a president who is as obviously deplorable as America's policy has been, at least foreign policy has been for the last 8 years anyway. So it's going to be easier now for the left to galvanise against, you know, corruption and malfeasance, because Obama was just given a free pass, come on, by a large portion of the media at least, and a large portion of people. You're given a free pass, despite being pretty draconian and tyrannical. So now Trump will allow the left to galvanise and find its way again, because, you know, Trump only got in because the left had failed so badly. You know, progressives had failed so badly that enough people thought, well, enough people couldn't vote for their pick, but on top of that, enough people thought this guy would be the solution, because people are desperate, and he promised things like jobs, prosperity. Let's see what happens, but, you know, he's staying true to some of his pledges. The wall, he's starting to build the wall, which, again, silver lining, might actually be good for Mexico. Think about it, the CIA have been drug and gun running in Mexico for decades, fucking with that country, trying to keep it down. So ostensibly this could actually make it more difficult for the US to fuck with Mexico. So it might actually be good for them. What a crazy situation. But yeah, let's see. Anyway, I'm sure there's way more to say about that. But yeah, silver lining is the left can galvanise against this, and it'll finally be fashionable to be anti-war and anti-corruption. And those kind of the resistance to that kind of stuff will grow now, because the guy in charge is obviously an arsehole, and that makes it easier for people to oppose. Shouldn't be that kind of superficial, but it seems to be. It's a team. We have this team-based politics. You know, if you're on the other team, you're slated. If you're on, you know, if you're on my team, I'll let you get away with shit. It's not a good way to do politics. So we'll use this as an opportunity, show resistance, and we've seen resistance. I'm sure a judge very recently has just overturned the travel ban. I know somebody overturned it at first, then they got sacked, but I think since then there's been another court case, and a judge has overturned it basically, or put a stay on it, something like this. So there's resistance, and that's good. Let's use this momentum to fucking resist stuff. It's going to be fashionable to resist US policy once again. I'm repeating myself, so that's that. I also wanted to talk a little bit about Switch, because I haven't talked about it yet, and it looks pretty sweet. I've gone up and down on it. To start with, I was a bit disappointed, then I've started to warm to it. One of my big hopes for the system is that we do see new iterations of franchises that were out on the handheld systems. So I want to see Professor Layton's, I want to see Phoenix Wright's, I want to see Pokemon, I want to see hidden object games. If the Switch has got a stylus. I don't know if the Switch has got a stylus. Oh god, I hope it does. I really hope it does. I'm dying. I'm probably the only person who's dying for some HD, lovely big screen hidden object games, because I really enjoyed them on the DS. But of course, with that shit resolution, they weren't always that easy to play. You couldn't really see what you were looking at to find these hidden objects. But I like that style of game. It's a fun pick up and play genre. I'd love to see that on a higher def just better quality screen, but you need the stylus. And I haven't seen a stylus anywhere in any of the promotion for this Switch, so I'm guessing it doesn't have one, which is a real shame, because if that screen is touchscreen, you're gonna rule out quite a large kind of area of potential of games there if you don't have a stylus. Anyway, but yeah, I'd love to see some of those handheld franchises coming out, and let's see, and it'll fit my style of play definitely. I do play handhelds. I will take that around with me out and about. That's cool. And I think I've heard somewhere as well that you can charge this from an external battery. That's really sweet. So, you know, because the battery life isn't that great, they're saying like 2 to 6 hours depending on which game you're playing. 2 hours is fucking terrible. I don't care what game you're playing. That's terrible battery span, battery life. So yeah, if you can charge this from an external battery, that's cool. Even better if you can actually play it whilst plugged into an external battery. I don't know if you can do that. I'm guessing probably not. I don't know if it'd charge quick enough to play on the go from an external battery, but I'll have to look into that a bit more. If they can do that, that'll be fantastic. And of course it's region free, so that's brilliant, because I'm sure there'll be some crazy Japanese exclusives that we'll want to see. So I'm pretty psyched about the Switch. Won't be getting it on launch, as I very rarely do. I can't remember ever getting a console on launch. Well, actually, I got the Mega Drive pre-launch, because I got the Mega Drive before it came out in this country. Yeah, so I got it when it was still. I got the Japanese or Asian PAL Mega Drive before it got released here. So I guess that was an early adoptee of the Mega Drive. But yeah, since then, not so much. So we shall see how it goes. But I really hope the Switch does well. We can't lose Nintendo. We can't. Not in this race. Come on, we can't lose Nintendo. They're going back to cartridges. You know, that will cut down on load times, and hopefully it won't have such an over-reliance on these patches and updates. So this could be a return to a more immediate gaming, where we've got used now to these long installs and all these waiting. It's like we've gone back in time. You know, the PS4 and the Xbox One, all these huge load times and patches and downloads is fatiguing as a gamer when you just want to pick up the controller and play something. The Switch could bring that back. Yeah, so I'm psyched about it for several reasons. That's it. I did miss out a couple of things, I'm sure, but that'll do for now. I am going. Okay, bye-bye.